Welcome to the another chapter which is on duality and dual simplex method. The concepts related to the dual simplex duality post-optimality will be discussed. Since it needs practice, so we will be covering this particular chapter in multiple lectures. So let us first of all define what is dual problem or how we can make a dual problem. So in lecture number 4 to, or we can say lecture number 1 to 7, the LP problem which we have written, from now onwards, we will be referring them as a primal LP problem. And sometimes we can write original LP problem. In those problems, you can find that our objective function can be minimization type or it can be maximization type. And you remember that we write the coefficient on the right hand side, such as 5x1 plus 2x2 plus 9x3. So instead of writing in that, we can write in a short form where Cj is the cost coefficient, xj is our variable. So Cj, xj, and we are taking a summation from variable 1 to n number of variables. This problem is subjected to various constraints. As we can see that we have the summation. So Aij, these are the coefficients, and multiplied by xj equal to the right hand side bi. So the constraint bi is the summation of the coefficient multiplied by the variable, and we can have many constraints. So that's why I to m. And we have this non-negative right hand side bi. Now we remember that the constraint can be of greater than type or smaller than type. So in this particular format, we are assuming that we have converted everything into the equality condition, means adding slack or subtracting the slack or surplus variable. I'm going to get the equality form. So when we are writing the variable, say xj greater than 0. So this is the non-negativity condition. For this variable, we are considering that it includes the problem variable as well as slack, surplus, and artificial variable. So the same problem which we have understood or we have done in chapter 1 to chapter 7, all these problems can be written into this particular short form. Now how we can make the dual form of this particular problem. So let us write the coefficient. So first we are going to write x1, x2, xn because these are the problem variables. Once it is done, then we are writing the cost coefficient C1, C2, Cn. Then we remember that we have constraints. So A11, A12. So A11 is a coefficient of x1. A12 is a coefficient of x2. Similarly, we have written all coefficient of constraint 1 and the right hand side is B1. Similarly, the coefficient of constraint 2, right hand side B2, and we have M constraint. So we have written the right hand side. In order to write the dual form of the LP problem, we are will be assigning the dual variable to each constraint. So constraint number 1, we have dual variable y1. Constraint number 2, we have dual variable y2. And similarly, we have dual variable for other constraints. Once we have identified the dual variables, now what could be the dual constraint? Now the dual constraint, we can find it out. For example, we are looking for the jth constraint. So jth constraint, so we will be looking at the xj column. Now the coefficient a1j, a2j, amj, these coefficients will become the coefficient of the jth constraint, and this cj will become the right hand side of the jth constraint. So using 2 and a 3, we can write the constraint for the dual problem. Thereafter, once we have identified what will be the variable, what will be the constraint, so we are left with the objective function. So the objective function for the dual problem can be written with the help of B1, B2, Bn, basically the right hand side or the solution column. Let us use this concept to write the dual form of the LP problem. So before that, there are certain rules which we have to remember. Suppose the primal problem is given as a maximization problem. When we are going to convert into its dual form, the objective function maximization will become minimization. All constraint will be greater than type and all variables will become unrestricted. Similarly, if our primal problem is minimization type and we want to convert into dual form, then the problem will become maximization. All constraint will be smaller than type and variable will be unrestricted. So let us take the example. Here we have a maximization problem. First constraint is smaller than type, another constraint is 0, and then all variable are non-negative. So let us rewrite this equation in rewrite these constraints and objective function in equation form. So you remember that we are going to add a slack variable here, and we can add artificial variable here, but as of now we are not adding it. So we are just showing you the equation form without artificial variable, because you will realize later that the artificial variable is not going to change the dual form. So here you can see that we have added a slack variable x4, and since it is already equality, so there is no variable added. So 3 variable problem will become 4 variable, and we have added the coefficient of x4 with the z as well. So first of all, we have to assign a dual variable. So since we have 2 constraints, so y1 is corresponding to constraint 1, y2 is corresponding to constraint 2. So let us write the dual form. So if we have to write the objective function as per our discussion, point number 4 says that we have to take the right hand side, which are 10 and 8. So 10y1 plus 8y2 will become my objective function. The maximization problem will become minimization problem. So minimize omega equal to 10y1 plus 8y2. Now let us write the constraints. Let me take the coefficient of x1. So coefficient of x1 in both the constraints 1 and a 2. So we have written y1. So because y1 is corresponding to the constraint 1. So y1 plus 2y2. And you know that for minimization problem, all constraints should be greater than type. And what should be the right hand side? Look at the z equation. What is the coefficient of x1? 5. So we have written 5 here. Let us take x2. So 2y1 minus y3. So we have written here greater than type. And what should be in the right hand side? x2 and its coefficient 12. So we have written 12. Similarly, I can write for x3 and x4 variable, and y1, y2 are unrestricted. If we resolve it, simplify these two equations, it says that y1 should be greater than 0 and y2 should be unrestricted. Let us take another example 2. Here we want to minimize z, and we have first constraint greater than type, second constraint is smaller than type. So you remember that here we are subtracting the surplus variable, or here we are adding slack variable for constraint number 2. So when I'm writing the primal in an equation form, subtracting the slack variable, adding a slack variable here, so we get 4 variable. Their 0 coefficients are added into the z equation. Now you know that we have 2 constraint equations, so we are adding y1 and a y2. So y1 is corresponding to constraint 1 and y2 corresponding to the equation number 2. So what is the objective function? Minimization will become maximization omega. What is right hand side? 3y1 plus 5y2. So I'm writing here. Looking at now we are writing the constraints. Coefficient of x1, y1 plus 2y2. Since it's maximization, so everything should be smaller than type now. And what should be the right hand side? Coefficient of x1 in z, which is 15. Same for x2 variable, x3, x4 variable, and y1, y2 unrestricted. If we solve if we simplify the last 3 equations, we can get y1 greater than 0 and y2 is smaller than equal to 0. Let us take the third example where we want to maximize the z. We have equality constraint greater than type, smaller than type, and x1 is unrestricted, x2 is greater than 0. Here x1 is unrestricted, so we know that this particular variable we will be we will be writing into two types of variable as x1 is equals to x1 plus minus x1 minus. So we are substituting x1 with these two variable in the equation. Here, constraint 1, we are not adding any additional variable. Here we are subtracting the variable, so it is x3. Here we are adding another slack variable, so it is x4. So these are the variables and corresponding equations are written. We know that since there are three constraints, so we have y1 for constraint 1, y2 for constraint 2, y3 for constraint 3. So let us write the objective function. So maximization will become minimization. So Z will become omega. So here this is a typo mistake. It should be omega. Then right hand side coefficient 5y1 plus 3y2 plus 8y3 are written here. Look at the x1 negative coefficient, then x1 plus coefficient, x2, x3 and x4 coefficient. You get all these equations. Simplifying, you are going to get that many equations. So this is the way we are going to convert the LP problem into its dual form. Now let me discuss the primal dual relationship. So first of all, we have to understand that if we are solving, so if I go back, so we have two problems now. This is the primal problem. This is the dual problem. If I'm going to solve and get the optimum solution for primal, and if I solve, say the dual problem, get the optimum solution. So at the optimum solution, the value of this maximum Z and minimum omega, that will remain the same. And that is what we wanted to say, that the optimal solution will remain the same. The value of omega and Z will be the same. Now the question is why we want the dual form of the LP for the LP formulation. So the point is that if suppose you have a large number of constraint as compared to the number of variable, it is suggested that the LP form, which we have understood from chapter 1 to which we have understood from lecture 1 to lecture 7, all these we will take, and if this condition is arising, then let's convert into the dual form and solve it. Why? Because it will save our time, because when we perform simplex computation, its computation depends on the number of constraints. So if we are reducing the number of constraints by converting the problem into its dual form, then definitely we can save some time. Now let us find out the relationship. So suppose we have solved the problem which is given to us using the simplex methods which we have learned in lecture 4 to 7. So the right hand side will be corresponding to the problem which we have solved. Can I get the dual variable values using that? So we have two methods, method 1 and a method 2. So let us discuss one by one. So here we are taking an example of a maximization problem, smaller than type equality constraint. In order to solve it, we are using M method. So artificial variable is added to constraint 2, slack variable for constraint 1. We have the equation form. This is its dual form. So you remember that earlier we did not include the artificial variable earlier. Now, if you include it, you will see that the condition y2 unrestricted will remain the same. And that's why I said that even if you don't include artificial variable, your dual problem or dual form will remain the same. Now, let us back to our discussion. This is our primal problem. I'm going to use M method and I get the optimal solution. So the optimal simplex table is given here. Now the method 1 says that optimal value of dual variable yi is the optimal primal Z coefficient of a starting variable xi plus original objective coefficient of xi. So optimal primal Z coefficient of starting variable. So if I go back, look at the primal, what will be the starting variable? X4 and R will become our starting variable. So we will be looking. So now I'm coming again. Optimal primal Z coefficient. So starting variable are X4 and R. So if I look at the Z corresponding to the optimal simplex table, the X4 coefficient is 29 by 5 and for R is -2 by 5 plus M. So this coefficient plus original objective coefficient of Xi. So what is the original objective coefficient of X4? Now let me go back. So if you look into the original equation, X4 is 0. However, R is -M, right? So here, if I find say Y1 is corresponding to say first equation. So Y1 is, so if I look at X4, so 29 by 5 plus coefficient of X4 was 0. So Y1 is 29 by 5. What is Y2? Y2 is corresponding to R. So -2 by 5, -2 by 5 plus M. This is first plus what is the original coefficient of R? That was -M. So what is Y2? Y2 is -2 by 5. Now let us take the method number 2. Now in the previous case, we are independently calculating the value of Y1 and a Y2. Here we can calculate Y1 and a Y2 in a vector form, which says that the optimal value of a dual variables is equals to the row vector of original objective coefficient of optimal primal basic variable into the optimal primal inverse. So let us see what is this. So optimal primal basic variable. So this is optimal simplex table. Who are basic variable? X2 and X1. So row vector of original objective coefficient. So what were their original coefficient? So let me go back. For X2 it is 12. For X1 it is 5. So we can use 12, 5. So this will become row vector multiplied by the inverse. So you remember that in the lecture number 4, I started the discussion saying that below the basic variable, there is always an identity matrix, which you can see here. So when we are starting the simplex method, X4 and R were the identity matrix, and we have to see what will be the coefficient in the optimal simplex table. Why? Because we know that augmented method in which we try to find out the inverse of the matrix. So you remember that we write AI and then we perform the row operation. So A will become identity matrix and I will become A inverse. So in this case, since we started X4 and R as our starting basic feasible solution, their coefficient were identity matrix. So in the optimal simplex methods, their coefficient will become the optimal inverse. So here, since it is X2 and X1, so we will be writing 12 and a 1 multiplied by this matrix. You are going to get the value of a Y1 and a Y2 as 29 by 5 and -2 by 5. We found it earlier. What is the relation between the objective function value? So here you remember that if I have say primer problem in maximization and dual problem in minimization, if we are solving in any iteration, the objective value of a maximization is smaller than the objective value of a minimization problem. So here I'm not saying that which one is dual, which one is primal. It can be anyone. Now at the optimal, what you will get, the value of a Z will become value of omega. And that is the relation between primal dual between the objective values of primal and dual problems. There are certain computations which we are going to use later, especially in the post-optimality analysis. Here, formula 1 is, can I find the constraint column computation? So here, constraint column in iteration I, so any iteration into the inverse into the original constraint coefficient. So here, this is the optimal simplex table. Even if a simplex table in ith iteration is given, this equation is valid. So let us identify X1 coefficient. So X1 coefficient inverse we know we started with X4 and R as an identity matrix. So the coefficient under them will become the inverse of the optimal inverse of the in the iteration I. So which is 2 by 5, 1 by 5, So the same coefficients which are in a green color I am showing here, multiplied by the original coefficient of x1. Let me go back. Look at this original problem. What is the coefficient of, what are the coefficient of x1? 1 and a 2. If I write 1 and a 2, I get 0, 1. Now, since it is iteration I, what is the coefficient of x1? 0 and 1. So unless and until I get I inverse, if I multiply by the original, I can get the coefficient of x1 in the current iteration. Similarly, I can find the coefficient x2 column coefficient x3, x4, all of them, including the right hand side as well, we can find. So if we have an inverse 10 by 8, our original right hand side, I can get this 12 by 5 and 26 by 5 directly. Now let us use the formula number 2. This is primarily to find out what is the value of xj. So coefficient of xj. So we can use the primal, we can use jth dual constraint. Since this is xj variable, so we will be looking the jth dual constraint. So left hand minus right hand. So let me go back. Here, suppose I'm talking about say x1. So this is the first dual constraint. So the left hand side minus right hand side. So this is what we are going to get the coefficient of x1. So here in this case, let me write x1. So we have y1 plus 2y2 minus 5. Here, what is y1 and a y2? In the previous slide using method 1 and method 2, I can find y1 and a y2. So 29 by 5 minus 2 by 5. Putting into the formula, I get 0. Similarly, for x2 variable 0. So this you do hand calculation and make sure that you are getting the same. Now, if I go back, look at the z coefficient 0, 0, 3 by 5. Exactly I'm getting for all the variables. So these formulas, method 1, method 2, formula 1, formula 2, we are going to use in the post optimality analysis in this particular chapter. Now, since now apart from the simplex methods which we have gone through, where we always want that our starting solution should be the feasible solution, and that remain feasible throughout the optimization. So the simplex method which we have learned earlier, now we are referring that simplex method as a primal simplex method. Along with that, we have a dual simplex method. Now dual simplex method says that it starts with the infeasible but better than optimal solution. It will remain infeasible till last iteration, and then you get a feasible and optimal both. There is a generalized simplex method which uses both primal and dual. So the concept of both will be used. And in this case, when we are starting, the solution is non-optimal as well as infeasible. So we have to make it feasible and then find the optimal. So in the final iteration, we can get feasible and optimal a solution for the given problem. So let us discuss these two methods one by one. With the dual simplex method, there are two requirements. First is the optimality condition of the primal simplex method should be satisfied. Second, all the constraints should be written smaller than type. So if we have greater than type or equality constraint, how we can deal that? The equality constraint we are converting into two inequality constraints, such as x1 plus x2 is smaller than equal to 1, x1 plus x2 greater than equal to 1. So these two equation is actually is satisfying x1 plus x2 equal to 1. So equality is converted into two inequality. Second condition says that this all constraints should be smaller than type. So we are multiplying by -1 to the second equation. So we get minus x1 minus x2 is smaller than -1. Now here, the dual simplex method has certain rules by which we can find the leaving variable and the entering variable. So dual feasibility condition says that let us identify the basic variable which has most negative right hand side. So that will become our leaving variable. And dual optimality says that we are going to find the coefficients corresponding to the leaving variable. Then those variables which are negative, I'm going to take that, and the z coefficient, the z coefficient divided by alpha coefficients, I'll be taking a mod. So which one is having a minimum value is going to be the the entering variable. So these two conditions let us apply, and then we will see that how we can find the solution. Let us take the dual simplex method as given here. We have first constraint greater than type, second constraint greater than type, third constraint smaller than type. So what we are going to do is we will first multiply by -1 here, another -1 here, so that these constraints will be smaller than type. Thereafter, since it is a smaller than type, so we are adding a slack variable here, another slack variable here, and third slack variable here. So if I'm going to write after modification of this particular problem, we can get this simplex table. We have Z coefficients. We have now X4. If we say X4, this is the slack variable for modified constraint 1, slack variable of modified constraint 2, and X6 is the slack variable for constraint 3. And you can see that we have multiplied by -1 to the coefficient of constraint 1 and constraint 2. Now, the first requirement is that it is the optimal as per the primal simplex method. Is this the optimal? So since it is minimization, so we know that for minimization, we will be looking for the most positive coefficient, Z non-basic coefficient. Now looking at this, we can see that all of them are negative. So this means it is the optimal as per the primal simplex method. All the constraints are smaller than type. Yes. Now, since this particular simplex table is satisfying both the requirement of dual simplex method, so let us find what is the feasibility. So what is the most negative column coefficient under solution or the right hand side, which is -6. So this particular variable x5 is going to leave. Now looking at the variable of x5, we have 3, we have -3, and then we have -1, 0, 1, and a 0. Now here, when I am saying minus, so here this is positive. So you know that alpha RJ should be smaller than 0. So we will not take it. This is negative. Yes. This is negative. Yes. 0, 1, 0 we will not take into our consideration. So let us find out the ratio. Ratio says that -3. So C is -2 divided by -3. So when I'm dividing it, take a mod. So I get 2 by 3. Now -1 divided by -1, take a mod, I get 1. Which one has the minimum ratio? X2, meaning that X5 is going to leave, X2 is going to enter. After applying the Gauss-Jordan row operation, you can see this is the table. I can again use now right hand side. Is there any negative? Yes, X4 has the most negative. So this is going to leave. Who are the negative non-basic coefficient? So -4, -2 by 3, and -1 by 5. These are the negative coefficients. So I can find the ratio. -5 by 4, take a mod. -1 by 3, -2 by 3, take a mod. -2 by 3, -1 by 3, take a mod. Which one is minimum ratio? 1 by 2, which is corresponding to X3. So X4 is going to leave and X3 will enter. And this is the simplex table, we get it. Now, is there any feasible solution? There is no negative. This means it is a feasible solution. So this means that we have all the variables values greater than 0. So it is a feasible. Now question is it optimal? I know that I'm solving a minimization problem. Minimization means I will be looking for the most positive non-basic coefficients. So X1, no. Similarly, X4, no. X5, no. So these are the non-basic variables. So there is no there is no positive coefficient, means it is optimal. So the dual simplex right now is giving us the optimal solution for the given problem. Based on that, let us move to the generalized simplex method. Here we want to maximize subjected to the various constraints. We have first constraint greater than type, then smaller than type, then smaller than type. So here we are going to multiply by -1. So this all the coefficient will be multiplied by -1, and then this is smaller than type, smaller than type, smaller than type, and we are adding a slack variable. We are adding a slack variable into those constraints. Now here x4 is corresponding to 1, x5 corresponding to 2, x6 corresponding to third constraint. Now this is the starting simplex table. First question is this optimal? So I know I am solving a maximization problem. It is correct. And now if I look at the z coefficient of non-basic variable, we have a most negative, means it is not optimal. Is it feasible? Looking at the last column, -8 is there. It is not feasible as well. So as and when we get a situation that the solution is non-optimal as well as non-feasible, we are going to use generalized simplex method. Now here, what we can do is let us make this particular solution feasible. So we can use the dual simplex method rule. So most negative is corresponding to x4. Now if I look at the coefficient of x4, only one is negative corresponding to x2. So this is going to enter, x2 is going to enter, x4 is going to leave. If I apply Gauss-Jordan row operation, I will get this particular simplex table. Now question is this simplex table feasible? Yes, 4, 0, 14, all coefficients are positive. Is this simplex table optimal? Now, since we are solving maximization problem and x3 is our non-basic and there is a negative coefficient, so it is not optimal. So from now onwards, we will be using the rules of simplex method, which we have learned in lecture number 4. So this is going to be entering variable. Then we will be finding the ratio here, and then we will be finding who is the leaving variable. So as we have understood, it is feasible, but not optimal. So let us use the primal simplex step. So here x3 is going to enter. We are finding the ratio. x5 is going to leave, which is minimum non-negative ratio. Then afterwards, x1 is going to enter. Then finding the ratio, x6 is going to leave. And finally, I get a Z optimal simplex table, which is shown at the bottom. And this is the optimal simplex table for the given problem. So here, before I conclude this particular session, here we have to understand two things. As per my observation, many students, they cannot make a difference between the duality, like dual form of the LP problem, and the dual simplex method. Now suppose a problem is given to you, some linear programming problem is given to you, and it is asked that solve this particular problem using, say, dual simplex method or generalized simplex method. So what you have to do is the requirements which we have discussed just now, the two requirements with the dual simplex method or the generalized simplex method, you just apply those requirements and solve the problem as I have shown. And just be careful that when I'm saying solving using dual simplex or the generalized simplex, please do not convert your LP problem into the dual form and then solve it. No, never do it. So since many students, they are confused and they have done it earlier that first they convert the problem into the dual form and then solve it using dual simplex method, which is wrong. Don't do that. LP problem which we will be giving to you, solve it using the two requirements of the dual simplex method and the generalized simplex method as it is and get the solution. So with this, I'm concluding this session. In the next session, we will be discussing more on post-optimality analysis.